Okay, welcome back into the video series, everybody. We are on video 6 of this deck build. In this video, we're going to be working on the railing. So behind me, you can see we have these posts, wooden posts that go in, and then this beautiful long leaf pine hand railing we're going to install. So we're going to jump right into getting started on this. Also, I have a little bit of work to do on the far end of the deck to finish the skirting. In the last video, we installed all this beautiful skirting from Thermery. I do want to mention that the entire deck build series is sponsored by Thermery. They provided all of the skirting material, all the deck flooring, and all the awesome ceiling. It's a beautiful material. I've talked a lot about it. I will link them in the description. You guys can go learn more about their product. It is a thermally modified ash. Cool product. Linking it in the description. You guys can go check it out, learn more about it, find your local distributor. If you're working on a deck, I'd highly recommend you use this material because it's just beautiful. It looks great. So let's jump into this. We're going to start first on the skirting over here on the backside, and then we'll jump into working on the hand railing. Okay, jumping into this side skirting really quick. This little section we haven't quite finished. We did all the skirting in the last video, but on this one we're going to work on this little side spot because I thought it was kind of cool how I ended up doing it. Basically right now I'm making a mitered kind of flowing board that goes down the step, back across the other step, and then down the other step. The grain will be flowing in this, and I'm going to go ahead and assemble and build this part first and then come back and put in all the skirting around it. You'll kind of see how this works as we go through it. We're going to use dominoes in here. Just those are like little floating tendons. It kind of locks it together and makes it all in one piece. So if something cups or moves a little bit, it all kind of holds together. You don't get weird looking gaps or you know, parts raising up in areas. So this just kind of helps it all look nice and clean and hold together. Going to leave a little bit of gap at those miters. I don't want to push those up tight because obviously with humidity and sunshine and just changing in the climate, those are going to just come, they're going to be gaps in them regardless. So I might as well just build it with a little bit of like a 1/16 1/8 inch gap there, make it look nice and clean. Once I get it all kind of set how I want it, I'm going to trace with my pencil, kind of create layout lines. And I'm going to pull this whole piece off, keep it as one, and I'm going to build in my skirting around it and then come add this after the fact. If I tried to put the skirting in and then come put this piece in, there's no way you could do it. And I like the way this looks, and it's going to look pretty cool when we get it all done. It's just in how it all kind of transitions from the deck floor around to the skirting side. Maybe leave like a little... Leave the line showing. So here we are putting in that first bottom piece. So I've already notched it. You can see that notch. That's following my layout line. I'm just going to build up from there, and then once we build all these pieces in, we can come back and put our full miter piece in. Now again, as usual, I got Travis here helping me out. He's helped throughout this whole deck build. I'll link all of his stuff in the description. He's a very talented home builder, does some cool work. He's got Instagram and all that, and I'm grateful he came out to help guide me through this because I couldn't have done it without him. That's 100% sure. So here we are putting that last piece in. It all kind of drops together. It looks really nice and clean. This is going to end up getting some landscaping in front of it, so a lot of it might end up being hidden, but regardless, we want it to look nice, and I like the way this came out. It was a little extra work, but I think that paid off in how it looks. And really all we got to do at this point is add one piece along the bottom there where that very bottom deck is, and then I've got a little filler piece I've got to put in right there at the very bottom. And I want to be sure that none of the skirting is on the dirt or on the floor because we got kind of a rise here in our grade. And so we just kind of want to make sure that we don't have any wood in contact with the ground because that just opens up an issue for rot. And you also notice there's a lot of screw holes. You know, that's the one downside about this, but Thermery has a great plug setup. So they provide you with plugs that match the grain. So you put those plugs in and it really hides it. You don't really see any of those screw holes unless you're really looking for them. Okay, let's fast forward a little bit to the finished deck. I'm going to take you around to what we just worked on real quick. Before we do that, I want to share with you my favorite flannel. My good buddy runs this company called Muskox. They make amazing flannel. So they have a sale going on right now. It's that time of the year. I highly recommend it if you like flannels. If you like to stay warm, get one. This is my nice one. I don't like to wear this one in the shop, but I have like 4 or 5 more that I wear in the shop. I have one that I got in 2020 that is still in great shape. They're durable, they hold up well, super soft, and they fit. The fit on them is just really nice, like a tailored shirt. So highly recommend it. Go check it out. Go Muskox. Link in the description. Promise you won't be disappointed. Okay, so this is what we just finished up. You can see this is, so we've half fast forward. You can see the graying happening on the wood now, especially here because you're getting a lot of sun. We're gonna fix this. In the next video, we're gonna drop some oil on that. It's gonna come back to new. But I wanted to share kind of how this looks now that it is all done. All the screw holes are filled in. Everything looks nice and clean. And you can see how that transition just kind of walks down. The grain follows. And it just looks really good. I think it worked out well. All the gaps have stayed relatively good. Like I said, you can't expect these to be perfect. This one gets a little tight right in here. But the dominoes being in there really helps it from kind of pushing out or moving out. Keeps everything flush and flat. And then we just carried it all the way around to the front and then returned it down here. And then we got a board on the front, obviously, that finishes that off. So I wanted to share that with you so you could see kind of finished how that looks. All right, I want to show this real quick under the deck. We're going to be jumping around a little bit in this video, so just bear with me, but it's all going to make sense. This is more Decor lighting. So Decor provided all the lighting set up for this. It's a plug-and-play system, 12-volt, low voltage. They've got a transformer that plugs into your outlet, and then you run all these low-voltage wires throughout your deck framing. I have the ceiling all lit up. You saw that in a previous video, so now I'm running all my wires under the deck to put in stair lights, skirting lights, and lights in my railing. It's a lot of wiring, and it's a pain because right now this is actually in the middle of summer in Texas, and we had a hot summer. So crawling into this deck and running these wires was not fun. It was not easy, but I had to pre-wire everything to get it ready for the railing, which we're about to start on here very soon. It's not a very exciting footage, but it gives you an idea kind of how this works. You got these T's in here, and they kind of pre-designed. I kind of gave them a layout on my deck, and they pre-designed everything and sent the kit to me. So I have all the wires I need, took everything up, and I'm bailing. Man, I'm done with this. It's freaking hot. So hot. I wasn't gonna put this in the video, but my kids saw it and they're like, "Dad, that's so funny. You had to do this." And so yeah, I was hot. It was brutally hot that day, and all I really wanted to do was jump in my pool, and that's what I did, just straight to it. I actually had another camera set up with a better view of this, but I forgot to record. So bummer on that part. Yeah, I left my boots on. That was a bad idea. I didn't take my clothes off, but that was not smart. All right, so we're gonna install the lights in the skirting now. This is a bit of a sketchy cut. I would not recommend this for someone who doesn't have a lot of experience with a saw. These track saws are not really designed to be used off the track, but they're great plunge cutting saws. So I'm just plunging straight down, making a kerf into the side of this wall. And then we're gonna drill a hole for our wire. And the reason I'm doing it this way is these lights Decor sent, I'm kind of modifying things to make them work how I want. They're designed to kind of slide up under some joists or some framing. And since we have a nice clean skirting wall, I don't have anywhere to slide that clip. So I just cut a kerf. The clip's like 1/16 of an inch thick. It just slid right in there. And it was enough of a pressure fit that it didn't need anything. It just, plug it in and it's ready to go. So I shoved this wire through the hole and I'll crawl under the deck and get it all plugged in. But you can kind of see how this pops in there. And these are some clean looking lights and they look really cool at night. I put these all along the side here to downlight into what will soon be a flower bed. And real quick, I wanted to show, we put these same lights under the walkway from the entrance of the house to the deck. This is going to be open down here, and so I want to downlight to the landscaping here as well. And so these I can just put up in there and screw in place. You're not going to see them; they're hidden. They're just providing light underneath this cool walkway. You get a cool shot of that old school mortise and tenon in that beam. Pretty cool piece of lumber there we found. Okay, real quick, let's do an overview of the lighting, because you saw me crawling under the deck, running wires, figuring all that out. And I want to share with you what these lights look like. Let me turn them on real quick. Hold on. They run, I mentioned earlier in the video, they run off the transformer, which this is the ceiling light system. So plugs in to a regular outlet. And then this runs all my ceiling lights, which you just turn on right here, like that. They look really, really cool. I've got these up in my tall ceiling here, and then I've got them running all the way down the front soffit. At night it looks really nice. We got a chicken down here. I think that one's named Vanilla. Yeah, she's chasing some bugs. Then we got the same system that we have there right below me, below the deck. We've got the transformer, and then we've got lights in our railing here. So this is what I was pulling through the post. So this is what these look like finished. We're a little dark up here on the deck right now, but that's a pretty good view. Nice little light. I've got one there. I've got one right here, and then we've already put some furniture up here. We got one right here. So those are cool little accent lights. And then as we come down the steps, these are going to be hard to see at daytime. I'm going to give you a good finished shot of all these in the upcoming videos, but we got stair lights here, obviously stair lights here. Got 4 of them there, and then coming down here, and we got our skirting lights here that we installed. Those look nice and clean, and at night they put a really nice just accent light down onto my landscaping, which my dad did. He did an amazing job. Dad's pretty good at landscaping. We got more to do, obviously, but that's the start of it. All right, we're gonna go into the shop now. Like I said, I'm gonna jump around a little bit. This is Total Boat wet edge paint. Every post on the deck got painted with this. This is really awesome paint. I painted the steel post with it, and I painted the posts we're about to paint now, which are wooden posts. It's very durable paint. I'll link it in the description. I highly recommend it for exterior use. It's not hard to apply, and it's actually designed for boats. So it's a tough paint. Just roll it on. I primed everything with Total Boat's epoxy primer, which again, that is a solid primer. So this whole setup as itself is a very tough coating that will hold up against the elements for a long time. And it also adds a lot of work and time, because you gotta paint, let it dry, paint, let it dry. But there's 5 wooden posts that we're gonna paint here. These are gonna go in between the steel posts and create support for our railing. These are all made out of 4x4 cedar that was left over from the old deck. So I reused some material. There were some knots in this, and I'm gonna come back and fill some of that and make it look nice and clean. But for this right now, we're just putting the first coat of paint on, and then we're gonna install these. So I wanted to make sure that I shared Total Boat's product here, because it's a great product and they're a good company to work with. All right, so jumping into the railing. So this is really cool. I had a hard time deciding what material to use for my railing, and I found some old reclaimed longleaf, like 20-25 foot boards that were the decking to I think a rail car. I found these at a mill, and they're perfect for the railing. This old growth longleaf is very good in the elements. It holds up well. Structurally, it's a very strong wood. It's stable. Reclaimed wood is stable. It's not going to move a lot. And we're spanning the large gaps. You're going to see here the actual, like, how beautiful the grain is here. Just tight grain, old growth wood. You just can't beat it. It's beautiful. And so since we're spanning these long gaps between the posts, I want something structurally that's going to not sag, that's going to be stiff. If I put cedar up there from the big box store, it would start sagging, and it wouldn't look good, and it's soft. Longleaf's a little bit harder. So I contemplating grabbing cedar, but I found this stuff and was super pumped, and it worked out great. It's going to look really good once we get it all dimensioned. It was a lot of work processing it. I mean, I spent probably a day cutting it to length, cleaning it all off, getting it cut down to size, sanding it, a lot of sanding. And here you're about to see me putting a bevel on the top. I put a slight peak to it on the top of the railing so it wouldn't have a place for moisture to sit or water to sit. And that's what I'm doing here. I've got the blade slightly tilted, and then we're going to do this angle, and then I'm not going to show it in the video, but I'm going to spend several hours with orbital sander, just sanding that up and making it look nice and pretty, putting some, I just hit a nail. Did I just hit a nail? Back it up. I did. Holy smokes. Well, I'm glad I didn't set off the brake on the saw stop. I don't know why. You know what? I bet you I had it turned off because you can bypass the brake. So there's a brake on this. So if it hits metal, it's going to set it off and create a lot of problems. But I'm just now noticing that. All right. So with the railing all done, we'll set that aside. We're going to go back to our post. So we've got to install all these mid posts in between the steel posts. I want these posts to go through the deck flooring into the joist and be bolted to the frame of the deck so they're nice and strong. First thing we got to do is cut a pass through our deck flooring, and that's what this plywood jig is for in my router. It's got I don't know how big the hole, it's got a 1/4 inch on each side, bigger than the beam, so there's a little gap there. So I'm just using that. I can just basically put my weight on it, run the router, and cut out the pass through for these posts. I think here we're going to get a little bit better shot. Yeah, so this is the corner post. You can see I'm basically just using the weight of my body to hold this in place. As long as you're careful and don't get too jerky with the router, it works pretty good. Do a few passes here, and then I can take the jig off and then just run the bearing on the tracks that I made and finish it off. And the thing here that I'm doing is I don't really know what I'm going to be cutting into below as far as framing. So I'm going to have to do some kind of tricky fabrication on these posts to have them slide through and fit to the framing. But I don't have a choice because they're locked into where they have to be, right? They got to be in line with the steel posts which support the roof that are already there. They've got to be, you know, spaced properly. This one's on the corner, so it has to be where it is. And wherever it lands on the framing, we're going to have to fabricate the post to fit the framing, which is what we're about to jump into right now. So luckily I have a giant bandsaw that has a tilting table, and I can cut weird, crazy angles and just do cool stuff with it. So this made really quick work of fabricating these posts to slide through that pass-through and fit against the joist. There's about 4 inches of post buried down into the framing. So like on this one, you know, I had a weird angle on how it was hitting the framing. So I tilted the table, created that angle. Now I'm going to cut with my handsaw the waist out, and it's going to create a little shoulder for that post just to drop onto the top of the joist framing. And then we'll use fasteners, some bolts and some screws to put these in place. Okay, so here you can see kind of how it drops in there. It's just kind of a weird little system, but it works great. It slides in nice and tight, and we can get bolts into it to hold it in place. Beautiful. Jumping over again, we're going to start installing some hand railing now. So I also made these pieces. I didn't show it, but out of the same material that we made the railing. These are pieces that are going to attach to all the steel posts for a couple of reasons. One is, as you can see, it has a dado in the back, so it allows my wiring to come up through. It's going to light my railing. 2 is I've got a cable system. We're going to put in this in the next video, and I do not want to attach cabling to steel post. It'd be a lot of work drilling all those holes in the steel and threading the steel, and I just didn't want to mess with that. So I made these cool little, like, almost like trim pieces for that cabling to lock into, for the wire to travel through, and also for the railing to rest on as it terminates into that steel post. And it kind of finishes the framing look of the railing, as you're going to see it as we get going here, and I think it looks really nice. I put a cool little bevel on it, so it has about 1 inch of flat on the front where we're going to put the cable going into, and then it's got bevels on the side that kind of wrap it around and return it to the post. All right, each post has to have cable access for it. This is what it looks like trying to drill into ingrain with a dull Forstner bit. Kind of walking around on me, but never gonna see it, so it's not a big deal. This is what we're doing. We're drilling a hole down. We've got a light that goes on these posts, so I need to drop it down about 4 or 5 inches from the railing, and we're gonna fish this wire up through here and run it through my railing back down below the deck. I will say that the wire management through the railing was really poorly designed on my part. It created a lot of problems, which you're gonna see in the next video. It just wasn't well thought through, and that's okay. I made it work, but I could do it a lot different the next time if I ever do it again. You can see here how that railing drops on, and you kind of see the finished product almost. Just a nice, clean, simple look. The cabling will fill in those gaps and it'll look really nice. We'll see that in the next video. The railing just gets screwed on. I'll put screws in at each point at those 2 end caps and then at my post in the center. And then I'll fill those with little wooden plugs, so it'll kind of hide the holes. All right, putting in the next kind of panel here. This one's a little tricky because we've got to make a return, so we've got to have a miter at the corner of that deck there and return back. This gives you an opportunity to see how, one, to see the cool light there, but also how those bolts bolt through the framing. I was able to pull that top skirting board off and then just bolt right into my post, and that makes it super strong. You know, those are sturdy. You can't shake them or rock them. And I didn't like the idea of just having my post sit right on the deck flooring and, you know, toenailing into it or doing something like that. I think it needs to go into the framing. Leveling these was a real pain. It doesn't show it in the video, but I did a lot of crawling under the deck, kind of shimming in areas, crawling back out, tightening a little bit here, just trying to move that post. It didn't need to be perfectly level right here, but it needed to be really close, because when I come in and attach the railing will help kind of pull it, but I don't want it to be fighting the railing and then pulling the railing out, so I needed to get it as close as I could get it. This corner one was really tricky. It didn't want to get straight on me, but I was able to, since it's on the corner, I had the advantage of being able to put a screw here in the side, pretty heavy duty screw that was kind of helped pull it into the level. All right, so we're kind of going through the same process as the last kind of panel area. We're going to drill the holes in the top. We're going to have a light in this post, so we got to fish through the wire. I'll install these lights after the fact. I just want to get the wire in right now and then get the railing done. And I'll go back to the painting too. You can kind of see, you notice all the black components, right? The posts that I talked about are all painted with the tool boat wet edge. I'm going to come back after we install all this and repaint them with a second coat. Just be real careful not to get it on any of the long leaf. And 2 coats is really all I needed. And it's, you know, it's been 3 or 4 months since we installed all this, and it still looks great. It holds up really well. And there's no issue with moisture, sunlight, or anything like that yet. We'll see. I mean, eventually the elements win, but you can keep recoating things and make it look nice. So you can see how that wire pulls through, and then that's the light, but it has a little trim piece to make it look kind of nice and pretty. Had a problem here. So one of the disadvantages to how I was setting the post into the deck is that it's hard to get them to land all at the same height. If you get shoulder a little different. So on this particular section, I had to cut these down to get things level and to get it lined up right. And I found the best way to do it was get my long 8-foot track, clamp it up there, and just use the track saw. Again, not exactly the safest use of this tool, but I've used this thing a lot, and I feel pretty comfortable. As long as I have the track secure and I get some good pressure up against the track with the saw, it's fairly safe. Now the downside to this is that saw only cuts 2 1/4, 2.5, 2.5. So the posts are 4x4. So we're gonna have to come back after we cut these and finish off the last bit of the cut with a handsaw. Now the one thing that this did create is I had already installed my light, so now my light's at a little bit different height than the other posts. Not really noticeable, but since I had to cut it You know, you can see there we've got like 3/8 of an inch we're taking off. So you know, no one's going to catch that, but it does change that. So you can see here how that railing is going to drop on. Now I've got to cut some angles. This one I'm just going to use that little board to trace the line. Not really a great job shooting that, but you can see the line on the board. I just, you know, used that little kind of shim board and just put it up against the post and traced it. I have enough hanging off the other end that I can do that. And then I'll go to the saw, I'll cut that angle, and then we got to work on this little return miter going back to the other post. I gotta say, this clip is kind of hard here because you can see Mayor walking in the background. Mayor is actually no longer with us. I actually put him down 2 days ago. Wasn't even thinking about it, wasn't gonna say anything about it, but being that I saw him in the video, kind of a bummer to see that. It's been a tough couple weeks for us because he had to go, unfortunately, and he's a good family dog, so it's always hard to lose a dog. So anyway, you can see how I did this. So I'm just kind of working these miters, transferring the line. I don't know if you followed how I did that. I think it makes pretty good sense. I put the other piece on, traced it, and then matched corner to corner, and that tells me where my cut needs to be. And then I lay my other piece on, lay it out, mark it, and it all fits together beautifully. It works great. That'll all get screwed together just like we did all the other ones, just using screws, plugs, and locks it in place. So we've got to put an under trim underneath the railing to cover our wire axis. So we've got dados under the railing. So these little pieces are going to just nail on underneath. They had a nice little step down, kind of thicken the railing, the look of it, because I think without this the railing looks too thin. The first thing I had to do was use that little plywood jig to make a notch in the end that matches all those uprights that are on the steel posts, so it can cleanly connect to those. And then we just make a cut on the end to hit the other post. A little bit of a challenge here, tucking that wire up in there. And if you look at the first panel to the left, it's already got those pieces in. You can see how nice that looks. But yeah, I'm having a hard time getting the wire to get up in there. And so I'm going to end up crawling under the deck and pulling the slack out. If I could, I couldn't, you don't see it in the video, but I took so many trips from the deck under the deck. The deck under, I did it so many times. I mean, my legs are sore because you have to crawl through this little hole, get under the deck. There goes the slack, back up out of the deck. I did this a lot. And this is part of the job. This is what it is. But with the slack out, obviously, it's going to be way easier to get this in place. And so the problem I'm going to have with the wires is the uprights that are on the steel post, that wire runs right up the middle. You can see already I had two screws in there that hold that in place. Those go right through where the wire goes, so you got to be careful not to hit your wire. But when we install the cabling in the next video, there's a hole. There's a fairly deep hole, and I think there's 10 of them up the length of that. And it was really hard not to hit my wire because I put the wire right where all my screws go. And it'll make more sense as we show you in the next video. But it was a nightmare. I tore up some wires. Another shot here of how that looks. It's kind of a weird angle to terminate into that corner post, but I just used my jig and lined it up, and it made a really nice, clean connection there. It looks awesome. I was pumped with how this came out. I think it was a good little trim addition to finish it off. Okay, so I wanted to show this real quick because this is a little different technique of how I had to attach this post. This is the corner post that comes from the kind of that walkway we built from the entry stairs to the deck, and this is the railing is going to meet this. I'm going to custom fabricate a metal railing to go to this point, but this post set on top of joists, so there's no way it could pass through down into the framing. So what we're doing here is I've got a threaded rod and some Total Boat Thick So epoxy. This is Really awesome stuff. I use this a bunch on my Argus, on the Airstream restoration. This adhesive it's thick, it doesn't sag, and it fills voids really well. It just works really well. So I drilled a hole down into the joist, packed it full of this epoxy, got the threaded rod in there and got it all glued in, and then we drilled a hole obviously in the bottom of the post, and that got epoxy as well. It took quite a bit of this Thixo epoxy. Luckily I had a tube laying around. But once this stuff cures and dries, that post is locked into the floor. It's not going to be able to be kicked or moved. And then once we get the railing attached to the post, it's really permanently set in place. But like I said earlier, I don't like the idea of just kind of toenailing or screwing the post straight down to the actual deck floor. I want it to go through into the framing, and this provides that structure. Apologize for my feet. I should not be working in sandals. That's not cool, but I guess it's the weekend. That's usually how I work. So you saw how that post just dropped on, and then we've got our railing going around. We're going to finish this last return piece. And then if you look in the distance, you'll see the original railing to the house. It's kind of vintage looking. We're actually going to fab up a piece that matches that and carry it all the way to this post. And that'll come in a future video. Getting this set in place took a little bit of work. Obviously, it can't use a screw or anything. So we just had to put the railing up there and kind of hold it in place until that epoxy's set. Okay, so that's going to shut it down for this video. In the next video, we're going to finish this deck off. So obviously you can see this is finished behind me. So we've got all this cabling to install in the next video. Like I mentioned earlier, we've got a custom metal railing on the front. That's going to be really cool. It's the original railing and we're extending it so it has kind of a cool 60s vintage vibe to it. And then we'll add the longleaf hand railing on top of that. So that's going to be a really cool look. Also, the deck here is, we're fast forwarding from when the footage you watched in this video was probably from 3 or 4 months ago, because you already kind of see the ash is starting to kind of get that gray patina. This stuff will gray out to a really pretty color if you just leave it, and it's fine. That's an option that you can definitely allow to have happen. But in the next video, we're actually going to bring it back to life and re-oil it and make it look like it's brand new again, because I like that look. I'm going to keep it oiled. I haven't oiled it at all to this point, so it'll be cool to see how that oil transforms this wood and brings it back to life. So next video is the last one as far as build goes, and then I'll have an overview video of the whole deck. I look forward to sharing that with you guys. Be sure to leave me a comment, let me know what you think of this video, and we'll see you next time.